Well, welcome back. I'm Ted Thomas, and for the past 30 years, I've been involved in an alternative, unlike the traditional real estate, but an alternative part of that real estate business, and it's called tax deeds and tax deeds. It's kind of a subset of the traditional business. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, and the reason I'll tell you about it is when we buy in that part of the marketplace, many of us resell using owner-seller financing. And why do we do that? Because it's another profit center. So this is a very small niche. It's not very well known, but I can tell you right now, it might not be sexy like other real estate in the country club and whatever, but it's very profitable, and there's abundance. There's plenty of tax deeds and tax liens. And I'll tell you about both of those just briefly. In today's episode, I'm going to discuss the question that's asked, and that is how to find owner financing real estate. Well, I'm going to tell you these properties are advertised at lower than market prices, and they're on all the traditional sites. For example, the MLS system, Craigslist. You can find them on eBay, Trulia, Zillow. You're kind of getting the idea. All the electronic marketplaces will have properties where the owners are willing to sell and use their own financing. Why would they do such a thing? Well, unlike traditional real estate, the traditional people go to the bank, they get the money there. Well, the clients that want these properties that are used and abused that we buy at auctions, well, those clients maybe have poor credit. In other words, not a good FICO score, or maybe they have mismanaged their credit. They don't have a nice high score. So the banks only want people that will fit into their guidelines. What does that mean? That means very simply that they're going to give them a low interest loan, but they must have good credit, otherwise they're not going to lend the money. So traditional real estate is really described as an owner calling a broker, starting the selling process. If they find a buyer on the MLS system or with letters or through their connections, then they immediately take that person to a bank. Well, I'm talking about non-traditional real estate, kind of an alternative part of it. And in the alternative market, people sell the properties themselves. By that I mean owner-seller financing. Now that happens all the time. And why do they sell that way? Because there's about 20 or 25% of the market that can't get traditional financing. In other words, they can't go to the bank and get a loan. Now, not that they can't walk in the door. They'll walk in the door, but they'll walk out depressed because the banks will turn them down because they don't have a good FICO score and they don't have good credit ratings. So those people are looking for loans. So those loans are searched for in all the sites that I just mentioned. So let's remind you of that. That's going to be Craigslist, going to be Facebook Marketplace, Trulia, Zillow, multiple listing system. You're kind of getting the idea. So what's going on here? These people are advertising their property and saying owner-seller financing. That means they could have a smaller down payment, they could have longer or shorter terms, but more than anything, if the owner-seller is financing, they can charge 8, 9, 10%, whereas the banks are charging 4 or 5%. Now, how can they get more? Because they have a part of the market that nobody else wants. In other words, they don't want those people, so they're restricted. So when these people are looking for financing, they're looking for owner financing. And boy, there's plenty of it out there. So in the good economic times, the real estate people can really control the market. There can be as many as 1 million agents out there working. But in the bad economic times, well, guess what? About half of those people go home because there's not enough business. So it's not unusual in the good times for 1 million people to be members of the National Association. In the bad times, there's 500,000, but you're getting the idea. So when the markets aren't good, where are people going to go to get financing? Well, the banks might shut down and not do any lending. So this is where owner financing is really the number one way to get money. So in the good times, there's going to be plenty of people going to the bank. There's also going to be plenty of people looking for owner-seller financing. All right, now, if you're buying tax lien certificates, you're going to need actual cash ahead of time, but that's considered a safe and secure investment. The part of the business that I'm involved in is not tax liens, but tax deeds. And those properties are sold at auction for 10 and 20 cents on the dollar. They're sold for low prices because the county has confiscated the property from someone that didn't pay their tax. Now, that person maybe abandoned it, And if they have, then the county's going to confiscate the property, and then they're going to resell it, and they're going to resell it at a bargain price. Why? Because they just want to collect the back taxes. So that means if you're a buyer in that alternative market, you can get a 60%, 70%, even an 80% discount. Is that a good discount? Well, it's terrific. All right, so there's going to be millions of these properties nationwide. So if that's a business that you're interested in, I just started that 30 years ago. Much different than the traditional real estate business. But today we're talking about how to find owner financing for real estate. All of the people that are in the alternative market are going to be interested in owner financing. Why? Why are they going to want to do that? Because number one, they bought the property right. They're going to sell it and make some money on the margin. So in other words, they bought it low, so they'll sell it somewhere below the retail price. All right, so they're going to make money on the margin. Now, when they sell it and they use owner financing, well, guess what? They're going to make another profit because now they're going to get their money out there and make 8, 10, 12% interest on their money. So those are pretty outrageous returns. This is an attractive business for a business person because they can make money on the first sale and they can make money and on the financing. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about how to find this financing. There's going to be plenty of sites. Believe me, the multiple listing system will tell people that owner-seller financing is available. And if the market's bad, you'll find all the electronic sites are going to do the same thing. So I won't rename them again here because we don't have time. All right, now these people that are looking for owner-seller financing, I can tell you right now, they're not bad people. Many of them have mismanaged their account. All right, that means they haven't paid their credit card on time, or maybe they missed a payment here and there. All right, but they're unfinanceable at the bank because they don't have a good FICO score. So if you don't have that score and you're not within the guidelines, the bank doesn't want you. But the banks, keep in mind, they're lending money at 4 and 5%. That's pretty cheap. You can lend money at 7, 8, 9, 10% and more to these people because they're desperate to get financing for the property that they want. Okay, now this episode I'm discussing how to find owner financing in real estate. All right, now the banks have very strict guidelines. So think about that. What's their strict guideline? They're going to want, number one, the person has to have a good FICO score. Number two, they have to have a good job. Number three, they have to be on the job for a certain amount of time. All right, you got the point. All right, so now they have very strict guidelines. Whereas with owner-seller financing, those people are very flexible. They might want less down payment. They might say, you don't have to have a 30-year loan. We'll do a 10-year loan. They might say, we'll change the interest rate. We're not going to lend the money at 4 and 5. We're going to lend the money at 10%. But the point is, financing is available. What's more important, no deal or paying a little bit more for the financing? I can tell you right now, the people that want to have a house to live in, it's more important to make the deal than worry about the interest rate. Why? Because you can deduct all that interest from your taxes, so it's not a big crisis. All right, now there's a handful of people out there that won't want to use owner-seller financing. They'll want to go to the bank, and they can go to the bank anytime they want, but they'll have to meet the strict guidelines. Our people that learn alternative real estate, they say, wait a minute, I want to make profit on the selling of the property, and I want to make a profit when I do the financing. All right, now my name is Ted Thomas. I'm going to give you a very brief example right here of how this works, and then that'll be all we'll have for today. All right, so let's take a property that's just coming up for tax auction. It's coming up for tax auction because the people didn't pay the tax. So let's use a value of $125,000. Okay, that's what the tax assessed value is. All right, the people walked away. For what reason? I don't know. All right, now what's going to happen? The county, if they don't collect the tax, they're going to confiscate the property and they're going to put it up for auction. All right, when they put it up for auction, generally they will start the bidding at the back taxes. So let's say the back taxes were $5,000 or $7,000. So that $5,000 is the starting bid. All right, that property will be sold to the highest bidder. So if someone else comes in and bids $20,000 for a property that was assessed for $125,000, they got themselves a great deal. So properties can be sold at these auctions for 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar. All right, so the person had a bargain when they bought it. Why did they buy it? They bought it because they want to sell it. All right, could they ask $125,000 because it's assessed at that? Yes, maybe they could. However, if they want to sell it quickly, they could ask only $90,000. Well, if they only ask $90,000, they're way under the market. Okay, they're going to attract a lot of buyers. And then if they add one more thing and say that they will finance it, In other words, they're going to use owner financing. Well, then that's going to be another plus. So more people are going to come. So the property's going to get a lot of exposure very quickly. All right, if they sell it with that financing, they can sell it with a low down payment, or they can sell it with whatever interest rate they want. This is common. It's called a contract to sale. It's called an installment contract. No different than buying a car, no different than buying a refrigerator. It's an installment sale. That's all it is. Now, for some unknown reason, we don't know why the people default, but they defaulted, and the county is going to sell the property because they don't want any more property. They don't want the property. So this is your chance to make some money. Now, if you're going to go to these auctions and buy these properties, you have to do two things that are very important. The number one thing is this. You need to have boots on the ground and have looked at the property. Why? What if there was a hurricane? What if there was a fire? What if it was next to a chicken farm? Many things could happen to a property, so you want to look before you leap. Secondly, when you buy that property, before you buy it, know what your selling strategy is going to be. Are you going to try and get retail? Are you going to try and get under retail? Don't just keep bidding and bidding. Know what your selling strategy is so that you don't bid too high. Now, my name is Ted Thomas, and right below me is a free gift for you.